In response to the challenges faced by Nigerians over the removal of fuel subsidy and the unstable inflation, the Nigerian Labour Congress demands a wage increment from the 30,000 naira current wage to meet up with the present cost of living. After deliberating and computing the present standard of living, the labour unions say the current minimum wage of 30,000 naira can no longer cater for the well-being of an average Nigerian worker. They lamented that not all state governments are paying the current wage award, which expired in April 2024. 5 years after the Minimum Wage Act of 2019 was signed by former President Muhammadu Buhari, according to the Labour Union, the act is to be reviewed every 5 years so as to meet up with contemporary economic demands of workers. In response to this, the federal government set up a tripartite committee consisting of representatives of government, organized labor and private sector employers on equal representation, with a plus factor consisting of representatives from the informal economy saddled with the responsibility of working out a minimum wage that reflects the current economic realities in Nigeria. Now, negotiations have ended at deadlock, with Labour not being satisfied with wage proposals from government. What is the stand of the federal government to this? Now, to this negotiation, as well as the position of Labour Union. Today, our guest will give us the indices and, of course, answer to some of these questions. I warmly welcome you to the program. Thanks for joining us. I am Eucharia Clinton. Now, joining us in the studio is Dr. Ibrahim Modibo. He's a public affairs analyst. You're welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you, UK. Good to see you.
Now, series of meetings have been heard, and the two parties seem to not to have come to any form of agreement. Now, how do you view all of this situation?
Thank you very much for inviting me this evening to discuss this matter of great importance to Nigerians in particular, and maybe to the global community as a whole. But before I answer your question, my heart goes out to the 5 military officers that were killed yesterday in Aba. I sympathize. My condolences to their immediate family, friends, colleagues, and also my courtesies goes to Mr. President as the father of the nation for the great loss. May their gentle souls rest in perfect peace. Amen. Now, if you look at the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it's a government that came with focus. It's a government that was prepared, because I could see that Mr. President has been preparing for this job for the past 20 years, or maybe since the dawn of this democracy. He has been preparing. That's why I said, look, Omolokun, I don't know whether I'm correct, Emolokun, it is our tongue. It is his own turn. I see Mr. President as a man of uncommon grace and compassion, whose love for humanity found his deepest and most profound expression in his commitment to social justice and fair play for mankind. And I'm very sure that Mr. President, by his words and actions, he is a man that is pained with the pains of Nigerians. More often than not, he's almost every time emphasizing that he feels the pains. And therefore, with his coming into power on the first day, removing the fuel subsidy, a lot of expectations are high within the Nigerian community, especially in the sense that he has a program of action, policies, and also things that you want to implement, not to inflict pains, but to add value to human lives. And therefore, with the removal of fuel subsidy, the government has made some plans to see how the people or their lives could be upgraded with some policies and programs that could be able to bring succor and to make Nigerians feel the beauty of democracy by way of enhancement of their lives. Now, the assemblage of some of his lieutenants seems to be a great disservice to these policy and programs, in that he's not the only one that is sitting down to iron out these issues and bring out these policy and programs. He has advisors and he has ministers and what have you that will sit down with you and tell him, do this, do that, do this, do that. Now, a year has gone. We've not been able to see the CNG buses. We have not been able to see food on the tables of the people because people are hungry. And Nigerians, is just like what Chino Achebe has been writing, that things have fallen apart and the center no longer holds. Okay. Therefore, the people of the country, especially labor, their demands to me seems to be on the reasonable side, although, let me state for the purpose of emphasis, I strongly believe that the government position or the people in the tripartite discussions as per the issue of minimum wage should have had that compassion and human feeling to know that Nigerians are in pain, they are having series of problems, the taxes are there, here and there, the gas is has been increased, the price of electricity, and still coping with 30,000, except if there's miracle. I do not see how even a director will be able to survive under the current economic doldrum, because 30,000 as minimum wage or take-home pay cannot even take you to the bus stop.
Okay, I'll still on that. Now, you said 30,000, but there've been some conflicting reports about the demands of labor, ranging from 615,000, down to 494,000. Do you think that the demand of labor is outrageous?
Well, you see, in labor matters, it's just like sitting down to make propositions based on what they feel is the correct earnings that the lowest ranking person in the civil service or in service in government and private sector should earn to take him home, pay his school fees, pay NEPA or electricity bills, look at place food on the table, then look at the issue of transportation, the issue of even survival itself. To me, honestly, I think the 400 and something thousand might not be realistic. I think they are just placing that to be able to get to a point of negotiations. And if you ask me, is the tripartite composition very sincere? I will tell you no, they are not. Because if you look at, for God's sake, you have a civil servant that is under this precarious atmosphere. You are suggesting 60,000 when already the government in Edo has already made this of 70,000. So it is, to me, I think there's lack of sincerity of purpose and there's also lack of seriousness. If I were to advise the president, I would have disbanded this tripartite committee and also just sit with my think tank and see how we'll be able to get out of, because if we're going now into UK, if we're going now into all this strike and what have you, it is going to cost Nigeria more than we bargained for.
Yes, because
it's unnecessary.
Yes, I was actually coming to that. Is going on indefinite strike really the answer to the problem? Because this will not be, we already have an alien economy that we are trying to very hard to revive. And going on indefinite strike, what do you think that would, result to?
If I were to advise President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, knowing that his decision to venture into politics has been born out of his patriotic desire to positively respond to our generational challenges. And these generational challenges has to do with the welfare of the people. In democracy, the art of governance is standing on a kind of trapezoidal structure where you look at the issue of insecurity or their security, placing food on the table, and also meeting the yearning aspiration in terms of social well-being of the people. Once you do that, it's finished. Now, to me, this 400 or this thing by labor, which is to a large extent not realistic under our current economic platform. But to go anything less than 100,000, to me, by the government, I don't think there is level of seriousness. Looking at the issues of contention that has to do with well-being and welfare of the Nigerian worker. Recently, Angola, also an oil-producing country, has been able to jack up its minimum wage to $120, $125 for their as a minimum wage to their workers. If you transfer $120 side by side with the Nigerian naira, how much is it? How much is it going to by today's exchange rate? Therefore, to me, there should be a making point. UK, with due respect, I think this team by the government should be able to let. I think this confrontation or this kind of dilly-dallying right from day one, I think it is as unnecessary as it is not going to give us any leeway.
Having said that, Doc, now what steps can the federal government take to address the strike, because a strike has really been declared now, and resume negotiations with the labor unions?
You see, to me, this strike is unnecessary. Right from day one, when labor has started talking about this thing, we should have had focus. Nigeria has the wherewithal, especially with the withdrawal of the subsidy. If I were to advise President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I would have told him that, sir, with due respect, some of these econometrics are not working. Let us look at the welfare of Nigerian people. Let us see how we make them happy. Because we have elections in 2027. And whether we like it or not, going at this pace, Nigerians are not happy. Therefore, we have to look forward to what will make Nigerians happy, what will place food on the table, what will take them home, what is going to pay the school fees and whatever. And now, almost everything is increasing geometrical progression. If you go to the market today, even if it is 100,000, you can only buy something in a leather bag, that black polythene. It's not going to more than that, because if you look at a bag of rice now, it's almost 80 or so thousand. So how do you pay a worker 60,000 or 70,000? What do you want him to eat? Is it gari? Even gari is over 50,000 per bag. So you don't want him to have condiments that will go along with it, or even meat that will make him a bit fatter, so that he will be happy, to go to work. How does he pay his transport? And he has children, maybe he has dependents. How does he cope? That is a serious pointer to putting the service or civil servants into corruption. The only way they could survive is maybe through plotting the ways and manners of corruption, so as to be able to live up to the expectation of the family values and what have you. Otherwise, how, for God's sake, how do you survive? Therefore, to me, if I were to advise, I would have advised the president to look at the issue dispassionately. Come to a term, let them come to term with labor. I have suggested, let me make for the purpose of emphasis, if our president, today, this night, I would have disbanded the negotiating team, especially from the government side.
Is it not too soon?
No, it's not too soon. Because they have shown lack of compassion and also lack of feeling of human value, especially labor. Because if they know the problems now associated, do you know that electricity, if you buy 20,000 naira electricity, it might not even take you 1 week. So how do you cope? And we need electricity, we must survive. Your food is in the fridge and what have you, as a worker, you must survive. Therefore, you must buy, you must pay school fees. How do you do that? As I have been saying, I'll disband this team and then invite labor. I can invite labor to my office. Sit down. Osifo and Ajero, sit down. Let us talk. I am going to give you 150,000 or 100,000 as the minimum wage. Let us discuss. and then looking at vis-a-vis the economy as it is today.
Okay, I'll have to stop you here, Doc. Let's take a short break now and listen to what. Okay, we'll continue. Maybe we'll take that break much later. Now, what compromises or solution would you propose to bridge the gap, between the demands of organized labor and the federal government position? Because they seem not to be,
you see,
finding.
It's just like a cat and mouse chase. To me, Labour has been threatening strike upon strike upon strike since the coming of this administration about 5, 6 or more times. And to me, my heart bleeds for this country and also bleeds for Labour. Why? Because the government should have had this feeling that, look, there's a need for us to move into action to avoid. To me, this conflict is highly avoidable. If they had sat down to map out strategies based on the current tempo, because whether we like it or not, we have to dance to the rhythmic flavor of the current economic fanfare. And therefore, what we need to do is to sit down, map out strategies and say that, look, Labour, I know this 60 or 70,000 is not realistic, and therefore, that 100 or 150,000, let it be a benchmark. Okay, you wrote your thought there, Doc. We'll come back to that. Now we'll take a short break now and listen to what to the latest decision by the NLC, by the organized labor, to the point of declaring an indefinite strike. Don't go away.
We are calling on government to be much more responsive to the plight of the Nigerian workers. So, gentlemen of the press, if you could remember, we had a meeting, a National Executive Council meeting of the NLC as well as the TUC, where we were further charged that the leadership should take charge and will take all actions to call government to order at the end of the expiration of the ultimatum. Today is 31st of May 2024, and this night the ultimatum expires. So, gentlemen of the press, we are hereby
arising from the foregoing, we call on the federal government to immediately resolve the conflict in the industry by involving all stakeholders in contract awards like Bureau of Public Procurement, BPP, Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Works, Council for Regulation of Engineers in Nigeria, CORE, Federation of Construction Industry, FOSI, etc.
The recent development in the industry, we deem it necessary to let the world know of our plight in order to avoid a total collapse of an already distressed sector.
Welcome back. That was the organized labor there. And if you're still watching, this is Nigeria Today, and we're looking at a government labor parley on minimum wage. We are being joined now by Dr. Akangbe Oluwabamidele Moses. Is a research fellow institute for peace and conflict resolution, Abuja, and is a chairman, Academic Staff Union of Research Institute, IPCR branch. He's joining us via a telephone conversation. Now, Dr. Akangbe, the two parties, the organized labor and the federal government, have had series of meetings. As a matter of fact, there's a seventh in this series, and of course, they've now there's a deadlock, obviously, and of course, a strike has been declared by the organized labor. Now, what is the way forward? Are you there, Dr. Akangbe? Okay. Okay, Dr. Akangbe, let me put the question again. The organized labor and of course and the federal government have been meeting severally, and of course they've come to a deadlock. Given the situation, what is the way forward? Dr. Akangbe.
Okay.
You know, the two parties talking about the organized labor and the federal government have been meeting, you know, severally, and there is right now a deadlock, and of course, indefinite strike has been declared. So, given the situation on ground, what is the way forward?
The way forward is for government to actually come up with a better offer, a 150, 200 offer. Then we can sit down, Labour can sit down, engage, and discuss further from there. But 60,000 naira cannot go anywhere. That is not the truth of the matter. You know, what 10,000 naira can buy 2 years ago, 30,000 naira cannot buy it now. You know, 40,000 can't buy it now. For those of us that go to the market, a plate of tomato now, that's a small paint, is between 5,000 and 6,000 naira. What we normally buy for 300 naira, 400 naira. So I think it's important. So there's a next meeting, Labour next meeting tomorrow morning. I'm sure from there we'll be able to know and move forward. But sincerely speaking, it is important for government to actually come forward with a better offer than what they are offering now.
Okay, you know, the organized labor, of course, they've proposed quite some amounts of money, ranging from 615,000 down to a little bit above 400,000. Do you think their proposal is a little bit, just like Dr. Modibo here said, is unrealistic? Do you buy into that, you know, that thought?
Labor proposal?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I said, you see, when government come up with a better offer, definitely I'm very sure, yes, labor will come down from where they are. There's no doubt about that. But we need to put something on the table, something tangible. Government needs to put something tangible on the table for us to negotiate on. You know, the truth of the matter is that most people in the country now are actually facing a lot of hardship. Things are expensive in the market. Common man can't really afford basic meal, which we all know. I just gave a scenario of a pint of tomato that was 300 naira, 400 naira some time ago. And now you can buy it with 4,000, 5,000 naira. That is the truth. So we need federal government to actually come up to jack up whatever they are offering. The 60,000 naira they are offering. We need them to actually jack it up. If they can jack it up, of course, labor will actually come down from what they have, and of course, we'll now start discussion further.
Now, Dr. Akangbe, you talked about if the federal government brings up something reasonable. What do you think would be reasonable?
What?
What would you say? What do you think would be reasonable? You said if the federal government jacks it up, what do you mean, or what would you suggest? What would be your suggestion?
150 minimum wage is reasonable. As of now, a 120, 150 minimum wage is reasonable. You know, anything below 150 is not just, it's out of it.
Dr. Akangbe Oluwabamidele Moses, Research Fellow, Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution, Abuja. Thank you. He joined us there via telephone conversation. Now, just give us your closing thoughts on this issue.
You see, Madam UK, even if it is civil war, it ends up on the table for final arbitration. You come down, you sit down. Even after war, you come back to your senses and sit down and analyze issues without sentiments and without emotions, so that you reach to a definite conclusion. To me, the members of this committee have not impressed me at all, because it seems as if, like what people say, their hands is just like the one that has super glue. They don't want to release money to the Nigerian worker, in spite of the fact that the Nigerian worker is confronted with a lot of economic hardship.
Okay.
So let them come to the table, analyze issues, and also, like, let me join doctor to say that at least 100, let me up my own too, from 100. Let's say from 120 to 150 is going to be okay, at least temporarily for the Nigerian worker.
Thank you very much. Well, with that, we'll wrap up today's episode of Nigeria Today. Very big thank you to our guest, Dr. Ibrahim Modibo, a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for your thoughts.
Thank you, Kira. Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you for being part of the program. I am Eukaria Clinton. Goodbye.